My friends, what is going on? Let's do a quick little market update before we get going into the week. If you're new to the channel, first and foremost, thank you so much. Please like and subscribe, all that good stuff. If you haven't done so already, please follow me on Twitter, Colin_Gladman. That's always going to be the easiest way if things change intraday, where I'll tweet out any opinions that might change whenever the market changes. Because I always say it's great to have a plan. You need to have a plan. However, as long as the market is open, you're constantly getting new information. So as soon as that new information comes out, if that changes your opinion, allow yourself to have an opinion change and change whatever you're doing when it comes to the current trades that you're in. So let's run through the indexes. Then I want to take a look at Tesla, Celsius, Amazon, SoFi, NVDA, and MicroStrategy. That's what I'm going to do in this video. So having said that, you guys know the deal. Nothing I give you in this video is financial advice. I want you to make great decisions for yourself, your family, and your portfolio. So starting out, let's start with the bad. So we definitely created a little island top look here with Friday being a gap down and then selling off. That's the bad news. The bad news is anytime you create island tops like that, we are creating more and more resistance up top. I still believe that we are going to make new highs by the end of this year, heading into January. However, as long or as far down as this drawdown takes, obviously limits our ability to get through the ceiling. Plus, we've got a lot shorter weeks. Volume is going to be lower with Thanksgiving, Christmas, things of that nature. So when we look at the daily look on SPY, like I said, we have that island top, we gap down. The most bullish thing on Monday or the beginning of the week is we clean this gap out and get a close back above. So we want to close back above, like up in the about 595 range. That will overall start to look a lot better. I do love, and full disclosure, I'm in SPY calls right now, which I also tweeted out on Friday. I do like that we closed above the 21. I do like that we came down and tested this previous support that was resistance from middle of October, and we pushed back up. Like I said, we reclaimed the 21 by the end of the day. And if you go to SPY on a weekly basis, so when in doubt, zoom out, right? You can see that this was 3 weeks worth of resistance before we blasted through it. I've seen some people on Twitter talking about this being like a dark cloud cover. It is not. You needed to have a close below 50% retrace. It did not do that. Now, we did get one on QQQ, but IWM and SPY do not have one. So if you were looking at this, and then what I always teach my traders is look at a weekly chart just like you would a 15-minute chart, right? So if we looked at it the same way, we would look at this as, hey, you got a breakout, and now you're catching a retest and starting to push back up. So overall, that's what I want to see. I also told my Discord, anytime you get these big, ugly, nasty daily candles, sometimes you're going to catch those float up days. A very good example is like right here. The very next day you pushed up and retested the highs before you came back down to the lows, but you never made a new low, or closed below a new low before making new highs. Right here, another perfect example, floating back up before ever coming down. Right here, another perfect example, floating back up before coming back down. Right here, another example, floated up before it eventually made new lows. And then on these lows, once again, you were off to the races after that. Another perfect example here, big ugly candle, moving right back up. So what we want to see in futures, which are just now opening as I'm making this video, is by open, I would love about a 2-3 point push up back to about that 588, 589 area. And then, of course, like I said, once the market is actually open, a candle that is going to give you this kind of vibe right here, that's what you want to see going forward. Big catalyst this week is going to be NVIDIA earnings, which is going to be on Thursday of this week. So keep an eye on that. If NVIDIA does well, blows the doors off, we're probably going to make new all-time highs this week. If it doesn't, or even if it's a muted response, then we still got some more work to do. But like I said, I'll try to keep you guys updated on these quick little videos. Now, for QQQ on a weekly basis, same thing. Look at SPY. Or excuse me, same thing as we looked at on SPY with the weekly. So this was 3 weeks worth of resistance, 3 weeks worth of resistance, breakout, retesting. So I'm not going to sugarcoat it. The daily was definitely bad on QQQ. If you would have told me going into Friday that you're going to gap below the previous highs from back in July and you were going to gap below that and you weren't going to catch any bounce off the 9, the previous highs in July and the 21, I kind of would have thought you were crazy. And so therefore it's kind of like I was wrong. I told my traders, watch for some type of build out in here, especially I think heading into NVIDIA earnings, we're probably going to get 2 or 3 kind of inside bar days where we're going to be closing right around that 503 mark heading into NVIDIA earnings. And then depending on, obviously, of course, how those go, will determine whether or not we gap up. If we are chilling right here at 503.08 heading into NVIDIA earnings, you definitely want to see NVIDIA pushing back up through this gap, back up towards like the 510 to 515 mark. IWM, same thing on a weekly basis. You would look at this as here's your breakout of the ascending triangle, and now you're catching a retest. I think I said it in my video that if I know I did it with my Discord daily chats, but if you started to lose 233, we were coming back and we were going to be testing at least 228. You can see here on the daily time frame, that is what has happened. But even if we came back down towards around 225, overall, I'm looking at this as a retest as of right now. If we continue slicing through these supports and we get below like 217, then you have to look at the possibility that this was a UTAD, which stands for up thrust after distribution, and we're going to be slicing and continue moving on down. And then, of course, all-time highs are going to be off the table come January. So, I never want to be the guy who's like, oh, this week is crucial, but this is definitely an important week to give us a feeling of what we can expect going into end of the year overall. So we want to see IWM start to recover. 240 was my target this year. It hit that, so I don't know. I think we can probably at least repush those highs. Making new highs might be a little tough if things don't go well, but I do still expect new highs on QQQ and SPY as of now. As far as Tesla goes, this weekly, if you would have told me on Friday that QQQ and SPY would all be down like 2-3%, I would have told you Tesla was probably back down to like 285, 290. However, had a great day on Friday. This 2022 triple top over here, I said was very important. In fact, I closed out calls when we originally approached it on a daily basis. And the reality is we just sliced right on through that. And now we're coming back and getting a retest. If you know anything about me, you know I always say that when you approach resistance, so let's say this is our resistance, the most bullish thing that you can have is blasting through that resistance, coming back, retesting, and then continuing. So even though the market was ugly, Tesla had a great day. And so you want to see continuation. Big level, the first big level I'm watching is going to be about that 330 to about 335. We get above that, I have no doubt Tesla's at least going to retest 360 and probably even push towards all-time highs. I always like it when my fibs give me some confluence. So the previous low right here before Trump was elected, if we do a fib right here, we basically came back down to the 382, retesting a key level, bounced off the daily 9. So when you have a fib retrace that's a good quality one, you get a nice bounce off a daily 9 EMA, and it's retesting support. All those add up to a good confluence that we're going to see a continued bounce. Now, if we lose 314 to 311, then that's when those lower price targets of like maybe about 280 or so are going to come on the table. I feel like all we've pretty much seen is I want to wait till Tesla comes back to 300 and then that's when I'm going to load the boat. And you guys know me. I always say think of it from a perspective of what screws over the most people. And what screws over the most people is not giving them the chance to load up at that 300 or even back in the 200s again. It's to push from here. And then once you get all the FOMO chasers of like, oh, dang it, I guess that, that 30 or that 310, 309 was going to be our lows. And then once you get the FOMO chasers, then that's when you potentially could get the actual pullback. So always put on your market maker hat of going, what do I think might screw over the most people here? That was my personal opinion. That's also why I thought we wouldn't see 300. But if the market continues to be super ugly, who knows? We probably will. But I really believe that we are going to get at least some type of float up days heading into NVIDIA earnings on Thursday. The reality is if if there were lots of shorts from this past week, who really wants to be that short going into NVIDIA earnings, right? So even if it's just that low volume float up short covering style rallies, I fully expect to catch a day or two of that, like I said, heading into Thursday after hours. Now, I am not someone who's ever just going to brag about their wins. Let's talk about a setup that aged like milk and not a fine wine, and that was going to be our Celsius setup. So post earnings, I closed out my swing position, and when you think you're wrong, like it's never fun to close out a position for a loss. However, I thought I was wrong. When you think you're wrong, get the freaking, you know what, out of your position. If I would have said, no, maybe, then all I would have been doing is bag holding at this point in time. So the inverse head and shoulders clearly failed here going into earnings. Now it's going down for more liquidity. When in doubt, if we look left, we are at some key supports in here. 25 is just kind of that key psychological number. But as you can see on my chart, I think there's a lot of potential for Celsius to come all the way back to that 13 level. You're going to have 25 as a key psychological level. You're going to have 20. But their earnings did not show a return to growth the way that I wanted to. So the market is going to keep distributing until it finds enough liquidity to give it a good solid bounce. But if we go to a weekly chart, you can see this is a just don't jump in front of the freight train, so to speak, right? Tried to stop right here, tried to find support. Earnings were not good. This thing's going to continue to sell off. So look for around that 20 ballpark. You see a lot of support in here. If doing Celsius is your thing. In my small account, which we'll talk about SoFi here in just a second, my small account that I started with my Discord, I started it with $10,000. It's now up to $24,000. And I told my Discord, my goal is not just to sit there and buy options on it. I want to grow that small account. So like I've already started shares of SoFi in that small account. Celsius is another one that I've got my eye on. And then, as I buy those shares, I'll be selling cover calls and stuff like that on it. So I will still continue to buy and sell options, and if you want those entries, you're going to have to be in my Discord. I'm never going to put my entries or exits on Twitter overall, but this is one that I'm certainly going to have my eye on going forward. But this was a failed setup, and the reality is if every inverse head and shoulder played out, we'd all just sit around and wait on it, right? So you put yourself in good, high probability situations, and if they work out, great, and if they don't work out, you tip your cap to the market, you move on, you preserve your capital. For Amazon, I said anything back towards 200 would be a nice buy. So obviously market was super ugly, came back, hit that the 241. Those were those previous highs right here, and that's what you really want to see hold. I still think Amazon looks good into the end of the year, especially with we're getting to that time of the year where they're probably going to announce how good their sales are going, stuff like that. So I would have liked to have seen this turn into a hammer candle. On a hammer candle, this is not a hammer candle. Don't let Twitter tell you that it is. A hammer candle, you want at least twice as much wick as you have bodies. So really would have needed to close above about like 205 for it to look like a good solid hammer. But even if you continue to the downside, you just want to see a couple of candles that are going to show some rounding bottom. You want to see the volume dry out here, create some inside bars. And I think Amazon could be a nice add around 200. It's a little rich for my small account, but I might snag a couple of shares. I'm looking at it. I think Amazon's going to do well going forward. SoFi. This was one I joined the clique on. Let's see here. Thursday. Yeah, Thursday was when I bought SoFi. I sold some 14 cover calls for that week. Scooped up $100. I love the way this thing is flagging out. Very similar to Tesla, right? You had your big push with your higher volume. Now you're consolidating. The volume is getting sucked out of this deal. The daily 9 EMA catch up. You can see what's happened the last few times that daily 9. But 14 is a big level to hold. If we do push up to 14 and it looks like it fails, I might sell some more covered calls. But I wanted to sell some covered calls, pick up a little bit of extra cash. But overall, this is just kind of giving you that vibe that it's flagging out right here, heading into as the EMAs catch up, and the when in doubt, zoom left. This is a big area, right? So I'm fully prepared to add down if I need to, even if it just keeps chopping along. Anything that I ever add from a share perspective is a company that I believe in on the long term, so I'm not worried about necessarily that short term day-to-day price action. SoFi is a company that I plan on holding for a while going forward, mainly because, not so much because I think the company is amazing, but this weekly setup is very clean in my opinion. So even if I come back down here and it retests like the $10 range, I'm certainly okay adding. But this was clear accumulation right here, moving up into an SOS phase now, moving up more into a markup phase. I fully believe, even just with shares, you have the potential for a 100% win on SoFi going forward into this next year. But do your own research, do what's best for your portfolio. I literally don't give a crap, all right? You do what's best for you. NVDA, this is one probably going to float back up into earnings. This 140, this is as cut and dry of a chart as you can possibly ever get. That these previous highs over here, you want to see them to continue to act as support. SMCI filed like a plan of coming back or whatever. Who knows? It's probably a fake letter to the NASDAQ, but they filed a plan that like, hey, we're coming back. They were up like 17% after hours. If SMCI gets strong, you get a short covering rally. That's going to be a rising tide lift all boats. It'll help all the chips out immensely. NVIDIA is potentially set to be the biggest winner out of that. But I want to see that 140 hold. The earnings, gun to my head, I think their earnings are going to be good. I think we're going to see a good, solid, positive reaction. I think they'll probably be pushing 150 or more post earnings, especially since we already saw a markdown phase and a reaccumulation after last earnings. That's what I think. I could be wrong. I'm not going to be trading it. Also, to remember on if you do just, I got to trade NVIDIA because I think it's going to be awesome. You don't have to play NVIDIA directly. You can play QQQ. QQQ is going to have a massive gap up if NVIDIA goes into full send mode. You can play its, its sympathy plays, like TSM, MU, AMD. Well, maybe not AMD. That chart sucks still. But I've been talking a lot about it. Let me go back over here. Look, right where I had that blue line, where I said you'd want to see that liquidity taken out right here. That was taken out on Friday. So AMD, I like it. I do. I mean, it's at this level, okay? It still could potentially take out this 128 level, and then I think it's definitely a buy at that point in time, personally. But this rising wedge is starting to look like it's playing out to fruition. Let's see where we're at from a fib standpoint. Yeah, I think you could still take out, if the market is ugly, you're gonna take out 128 for sure, in my opinion. So I don't know. But if chips really rally hard, AMD is one that could really send. So keep it on watch if that's your thing. And then last one I want to talk about, guys, is MicroStrategy. I love this look. Now, it is expensive to play, but it's something that you could even buy shares if you wanted to. But you have this massive move on this gap up right here, obviously with crypto doing well. And now it's just consolidating as the 9 EMAs, very similar to what I've talked about with like SoFi. And when Amazon did it back over here, as you got that EMA catch up started to push. I mean, Amazon wouldn't have had this move if the market wasn't so ugly, right? So, but this is an example of like, hey, you had a failed move. I pointed this out to my Discord on our voice chat on Thursday that Amazon swept its previous day high and then created a bearish kind of inside bar look. So I'm not completely surprised that happened, but I still like it. But that's where you would look to add. Say, okay, I was wrong up here. Where's my next spot? Always be wata, my friends, right? Be fluid. Always be willing to change that game plan. And I'm sorry, let's cover GameStop real quick because I know a lot of people out there are memers. I talked a lot about this 28 level, how it needed to kind of get through this sticky. It's pushed it. GameStop did have a bearish engulfing candle on Friday, so it was a pretty ugly day. However, as far as I'm concerned, 25 is where it's at, right? As long as you keep showing support on 25, once again, going back to Amazon's chart, as long as you come down here, retest, and get a good solid reaction, that overall is going to be good. You just don't want to start trading under here. You start trading under here, you're going to get a push down. So even if we do come back down to 25, you just want to see that start to round out, volume stay low. Overall, that is going to be good. Watch that flow chart. I know a lot of Januaries were being hit hard, very similar to how a certain person who is definitely not a cat, likes to enter into GME positions. But if this keeps basing up here, just give it time, right? And if you want to buy GME options, please make sure that you do that when the IV is low, not when it's spiking and it's running really hard. Because even if you're right, you can still wind up being a bag holder or losing money at that point in time. Me personally, I don't do GME options anymore ever since Ryan Cohen diluted pre-market when a bunch of people were about to make a lot more money. I think that's a douchebag move. Hit me with your comments. I don't care. But I do hold shares. All my shares are in like the $12, $13 range is about my cost average. So I'm just chilling on this deal. So yeah, I think it looks good, but what you don't want is just constant rejections here, because if you do start pushing below that 25, you're going to probably explore new lows down to the 15, 16 range. But we're a long ways from that. But I'm not just going to talk about the good of a stock. I also want to talk about the bad. And if you listen to me, you hear me do it on literally every single stock that I talk about. Here's where it looks good. Here's where it doesn't look good. So hope this video was helpful to you. I wish you all the best in your trading going forward. Like I said, please like and subscribe. There may or may not be a very cool Black Friday entrance into my Discord tomorrow at some point in time. I don't know. I'll have to talk with the guy that's in charge with it, but there might be something cool coming. So like I said, follow me on Twitter, and much love. Have a wonderful week. Wish you all the best. Have a good one, my friends.